and thanks for joining the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Veronica Dan Ikboy. The conduct of the February the 16th presidential and National Assembly elections is just 43 days away. How ready are you for the all-important polls and others to follow? Today on the program, federal government to meet labor over planned minimum wage strike asks the governors to plug waste to meet workers' demand. Governor Matsari raises the alarm over siege by armed bandits. Kidnappers says nobody is safe in Katsina anymore. And later on the show, Air Force helicopter crashes in Boko Haram combat as Alpha Jet destroys insurgents meeting venue near Baga. I will be hanging out with Dare Odufoka and Shola Ojewusi. Gentlemen, thanks for coming to the program. Journalist Hangout starts now. The organized labor in Nigeria appears to have buzzed the panic button when it declared to embark on a nationwide strike on the 8th of January over the protracted new minimum wage demand. The economy simply cannot withstand such lockdown, and a national election is few weeks away. To avert the looming industrial action, the Minister of Labor and Employment, Chris Ngige, has summoned a meeting between government and leadership of labor in Abuja on Friday, with state governors appearing to be the last obstacle in the race to the implementation. Now, the federal government has advised them to block wastes in their states to be able to meet the workers' demand of 30,000 naira minimum wage. What's the hope for workers and the country? I'll start with you, Shola. Well, the NLC in reacting to this is saying that labor is saying meeting is no longer necessary as it had passed the stage of attending meetings on issue of minimum wage.
You know, the timing shows that the battle line is drawn. You know, I think the labor movement has some strategies that will have told them, if you really want to get government, this is about the time to really get government.
Is
Why?
This the time?
Elections are just around the corner. First, the government will not want a situation where the plans towards the elections are scuttled, because potentially they can be scuttled by a labor strike at this time. And that's why I think such statements are coming up, because they know that it's like they got the government by the jugular now, and they have to put up, or there will be problem. So if they are coming up with that kind of statement, they know they have the time, they have the momentum is in labor's favor. But after that, having said that, one thing is clear: both sides will have to know that after all is said and done, it is the future of the nation that's at stake. We have a national election just about, under 2 months away. And this kind of thing is coming. First, the government has to know that there is a crisis on its hand. And if nothing is done, if we go into a kind of labor crisis now, then what are we going to do about the elections? And if we don't have an election, what happens to the soul of the nation? So it's a very dicey situation. And I think labor has seen that they have some things to hold on to. And that's why they're coming up with that kind of statement.
Dare, what do you make stemming from what he is saying? Does this make this statement from the labor valid in terms of saying that we have passed this stage, really? Does that really mean they are holding the government by the jugular and that they can have their way?
Yes, no doubt that labor is, I don't want to use the right word here now, so I'll stay with holding government by the jugular. Because it's actually more than that. But if you ask me, I would say this is not the right time for them to apply this strategy. Whatever or whoever the strategist is who tells them that's wrong, is quite unpatriotic.
When should they have applied this formula?
Long before now. The Constitution states that salary increment should be done every 5 years. The last one was done over 7 years, 8 years ago. They had all this time to make these demands. I've said this before on this program. The statement wasn't popular, but I'm not really bothered. The truth is, we don't have to always want to blackmail ourselves. It has become the Nigerian way. Government blackmails the people blackmails government, labor blackmails the workers,
It's
a terrible circle of blackmails. That is what I see here. And that I'm being frank about it. In as much as workers should be entitled to their wages, even the Bible says so. And I believe strongly that 30,000 naira is not too much for any serious government to willingly and happily, not just willingly now, happily pay to its workers. But a lot of this, when the foundation is wrong, whatever we build on it will be faulty. That is, labor leaders must, as a matter of seriousness, learn to follow the rules too. Take advantage of everything written in the books to ensure that you get what is rightly yours. Don't wait until you want to play to the gallery. I see most of their strikes and call for strikes as playing to the gallery. They've been elected by the people to be labor leaders for years before now. They inherited this minimum wage issue.
Yeah, fine.
And they waited till moments like this when it appears that you are threatening our entire polity to make threats of strike, be that as it may too. If you go through all the reports that have been coming out on this, the federal government, or should I now say the presidency, seems to be at home with this 30,000 naira. Let's pay. But the governors are the issues here.
They said they can't afford to do that.
Majority of them at this time are fighting the political battle of their lives.
Yes.
Sorry. And now you are bringing this to their table. In Nigeria, where we know that majority of them wants to use public money to fund their elections.
But they said
Both
something. They said that they can only afford to pay 24,000 naira.
Why they hold it?
And if they are to pay the 30,000 naira, they have to cut down on staffers.
Why are they telling us this just now? Why is the Minister of Labour himself just calling meeting after the threat of strike? Don't forget that Labour called for a strike
before now.
Months back. Midnight to the strike, negotiations happened, it was called off. Was it that government, having succeeded in stopping that strike at that time, decided to go to sleep? Because negotiation for 30,000 was already, at very right stage. What we were told then that they are waiting for the governors to come in and agree. And the governors told us that, they are going to call a meeting where they will iron out all the gray areas. So the gray areas remained gray up till now, when Labour had to threaten strike again. So who are we to blame? Must we blame Labour for asking for what is rightly theirs? Or must we continue to blame the federal government for having a scenario on its hand where the governors can hold it to ransom? Or are we going to blame those who authored our constitution and made it mandatory that whatever is paid at the federal by the federal government must be paid by the state government?
But I know the constitution has been very clear about labor-government relations. Okay. If everybody knows his or her onions about certain things and prepared ahead, perhaps like you were saying, why did we get to this level? Yeah. While we blame labor, well, maybe we try to look at labor being too harsh at this period. We can also look at, let's say because of the timing. The timing. But we can also go back to the governors who seem to be the issues, the stumbling blocks now, if by what is coming from the federal government is, because they were asking governors to go back to the job and transit. Let's pay. I saw it somewhere that, sometimes priorities is also very important. You put so much money in specifics that do not really have any serious effect on the polity. Maybe because of personal things. I heard that about 2 trillion naira or thereabout is being spent on police or security or whatever across the state. I think that's a statement from this governors forum stuff. Wow. Now, if you place your priorities wrong, then this kind of problem will come. You have to know how important the payment of workers is. Because all of these people, they are like the backbone of states.
Talking about priorities. Yes. You see, governors coming to tell us if we pay 30,000 naira, we will sack workers, we will reduce. It's unnecessary. You have been elected to man the entire affairs of your state. And we must also be fair to some of them who are governing over states that are really not viable. And if you're asking them to pay what viable states will pay, will put them in trouble. I will suggest a situation where the governors agreed to these terms. Okay, we'll pay 30,000. They should have done that before now. I'm not even asking them to do that because they ought to know they should have done that before now. Then go back to your state, your individual states, and do the needful. Where you need to cut costs on some other things to be able to pay.
That's what they are being asked to do.
And so they don't have to keep repeating this. That's why I said blackmail. They are also throwing it back at the workers. Okay, if you force us to pay, we will sack you. We'll sack some of you. It's a circle of blackmail that is unnecessary.
All right, if you could just hold the thought, we have Alex on the line calling from Lagos. Welcome to the show, Alex. Ayo, rather. Welcome to the show and go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
You people are doing a very wonderful job.
Thank you.
On the issue of this labor, I am not comfortable with the federal government and the state government. It's that they are planning upon the intelligence of the workers. Why now? This strike action of the team or this negotiation does not start today. It has started since, and they are playing upon their intelligence, postponing this, postponing that. Are you saying the state government cannot afford to pay 30,000 for a minimum wage? It's incredible. Don't you know how much they are collecting as their security vote? What is the meaning of the office of the wife of the governor? What is the meaning? Is it constitutional? Now pay somebody that is having the wife, children, 30,000. In fact, it's prejudice in nature.
All right, thank you, Ayo, for your contribution. Well, Ayo is heartbroken.
He feels labor should get its wages.
Yes,
of course. We all feel that way too.
But then, you know, the sincerity of labor from all of the
labor leaders now.
Labor leaders, rather.
It's
been questioned. Like, really, how realistic is this fight that you will say you are clamoring for? They say that they are not politicizing this thing, but it's just about ensuring that, you know, the welfare of workers is really addressed.
You know, I'm not going to blame labor. Anywhere in the world, look at what's happening in France. Macron was on fire, you know, despite the seeming love affair between him and the people. But, you know, when the crisis of labor or whatever, the people's feelings came up, they even took it to the violent level. So, you know, all over the world, it happens. Labor must assert its constitutional rights too, because it's the right to demand higher wages, especially given the circumstances of the economic situation.
Yes.
And 30,000, as far as I'm concerned, is just stipend. But, you know, let's look at the pros and cons of even our economy at this time.
Yes.
Since the government, one thing is obvious, the federal government has agreed, at least in principles. What remains is the state. Now, if there is a way, because whatever affects these states, or whatever happens now, is not going to affect the states alone. In fact, it will be a bigger problem for the federal government, because where they are not able to conduct an election in February and March, then the problem is on the government. So whatever can be done to see if there is a way in which the states can also be helped to be able to do this at this time, I may suggest that.
Are you talking about bailout funds again?
But, well, you know, you have to weigh, you know, between two extremes. You have to look for a kind of buffer zone. If it's that buffer zone that's going to save us the kind of national embarrassment that may come up from, you know, we may think it's minor, it's irrelevant. But if this crisis, if it percolates,
yes,
then there is a problem. And that problem can affect the election.
But don't you think that it will be, you know, delaying also the doomsday if you cannot sustain that kind of buffer?
The two parties should simply know that this issue must be resolved now. How they do it should now be the text of the seriousness with which both the labor leaders and our elected leaders are taking the people. You do really know that at the receiving end in all this are the real people of Nigeria, the masses.
Of course.
If 30,000 is paid, the workers goes to the market, this thing spreads around. If it is not paid, workers keep going to the market to take things on loan. They keep buying on credit. And then you keep seeing people writing more, no credit today, come tomorrow, all over the place. The people suffers. What I'm saying is, the issue should be resolved. We should not those who are talking about politics are actually the people who want to politicize this. The Labour is threatening strike because of 30,000 naira minimum wage. It's no politics to me. It's been on long before now. Government on many occasions has promised that call off this your strike or don't go on strike, we'll resolve this issue. And it has not been resolved. So somehow, Labour must find a way of pressing home its demand. Even if we say this ought to have been done before now. That is not to say they can't do it again.
So do you think that they'll have this meeting with the government tomorrow?
But they just told you that the issues of meetings are over. I will want to plead now. But in pleading with Labour, we must plead more with the governors. I know of some governors who have ignored the cries and demands of their own workers in their various states, even in higher institutions.
If you could just hold the thought. We have Pius on the line calling from Kaduna. Welcome to the show. Go ahead with your contribution.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks. The issue of minimum wage, please, I would like to urge the federal government to just go ahead and send that bill to the National Assembly. That is the only thing that we need at this point in time. No any meeting again with Labour. And for the state governors that think that they cannot pay, they don't have any business to do in that particular seat, because government is not there. Governors are not there to continue to be consuming. Instead, they are there in order to be creative. So if they think that they cannot be productive in their own state, there is no need for them to be in that particular seat. So the government, the federal government should do the needful. We are tired of this issue of minimum wage. And going back to consumer price index of 2015, it is not even 30,000 that they're supposed to pay. They're supposed to pay 48,000 naira. That is, if the value of 18,000 at 2015, we want to bring it back to now, is 48,000 naira, not 30,000 naira. 30,000 naira is nothing to write home about. So this 30,000 naira is just to question the effect of what Nigerian people are facing. So please, the federal government should do the next needful and help this strike action so that the strike action should not take place, because we are in first week of this year.
All right. Pius, thank you for your contribution.
Yeah, I was saying something similar to what you just said. You see, we need to avert the strike. And how do we do this? We need to pay the people. Ngige is calling for a meeting. He said between labor leaders and government representatives. Are the governors going to be there? Several meetings have been held. Several agreements reached. And the governor will say they are still thinking of how to pay. Or they are still unable to agree with agreements already reached between government and labor. You see, government is a totality. The state government, the local government are all part of the federation. Yes. So if the federal government says, oh, we agreed to 30,000 naira, and the state governors, not just one of them now, even if we have situation where we have 1, 2, or 3 say, okay, I can't pay, we can address those peculiarities. But as a body, the governors forum seems to be holding the entire nation to ransom.
I want to hold.
I want to continue to say, in spite of whatever the discussion is between Labour and federal government, they are still not. They should come out and tell Labour as well as Nigerians why
they can't.
Each state cannot pay. You hide under the blanket umbrella.
What I was going to add was, the federal government knows the pockets of the states because they pay the states. That's why they ask the state. That's why they agreed to the time. Because I don't think the federal government can be so stupid as to put on the necks of the state
what they can't afford. Yeah.
Because they paid the state. They know what comes from the federation account. They know what is available in the states. But unless there is a kind of politics somewhere, tomorrow it must be solved. Whatever the politics is, they have to solve it because of what is at stake.
In fact, in the past, I think the last time there was an increment, we had issues like this. We had some states complaining. The agreement was reached. each state went back home. There are some states, do you know there are some states in Nigeria today that are not paying 18,000 naira?
18,000 naira.
They reached agreement with their people. Come, this is what we have. This is our workload. I mean, this is our wage bill. And this is the number of people
This is what we can afford.
we can afford. What can we do together? There are 1 or 2 states who reach those kind of agreements. And the workers say, oh, truly, we can see things for ourselves. If we have to pay this, we will only retain 60% of our current workforce. But if we move a bit higher, instead of 18,000, say we pay 15,000, 16,000, we'll keep all of you on the job. And agreements were reached. And after some years, I know of states who said, okay, now we can pay 18,000, and they started paying. So these governors should know that once there is a legitimate demand, and across board, Labour didn't start by asking for 30,000. They started with 50,000, and there are discussions.
They brought
it
down.
I mean,
took it
they're
up.
ready
So
to negotiate.
They are
across board, there is something looking, I mean, fair to all. They shouldn't block it. They
Quickly,
should come out and
let's take Samuel from Ondo State. Welcome to the program. Go ahead with your contribution.
Hello?
Yes, welcome, Samuel.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right.
The issue of minimum wage. Hello?
Go ahead.
The 30,000 naira minimum wage is not the problem. I think the problem is what with those in the higher echelon will be earning. Remember that when people are earning 18,000 naira minimum wage, there are people in government who are earning 600,000, 500,000. Now, when the people on the 18,000 will be earning 30,000, what will be the take-home pay for those who are earning 600, 500, and the like? I think this is where the problem is. The minimum wage of 30,000 is not the real issue to me and even to the government. Because to pay 30,000 is just the least. What happened to those on level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, up to 17, or permanent secretaries? So I think this is the fear the government is having, even especially the state government. So I think what...
Thank you, Samuel.
It's funny.
You see, it boils down to something I said earlier. This has happened before. I know of a state that had to stagger the increment the last time it was increased. Oh, those of you on the higher pedestal, we won't increase
your salary at this point.
There is
that
always
way.
a way.
There
We
is
just
always
have
a way to
there is
arrive
always
at
a
something.
way. If we keep saying all states should be able to pay, we are not being fair. There are states with very high workforce and yet very little internally generated revenue, and what they even get from the federation account quite not as much as others. And yet,
that was why
most of these states are civil service states.
Yes.
All they do there is work for government.
I remember
And you
at
can't sack.
some point last year, a particular government came out to say that perhaps governors or state governments should be allowed to determine
What they will pay.
what they can pay.
But that's unconstitutional.
But it is
as of now.
unconstitutional, as you said earlier. So perhaps we need to start looking at how to tinker with that aspect of the Constitution, because how long are we going to go ahead with this fight of salary increment, looking at the economic situation? Are we looking at also addressing other issues? Because after the increment, you also have other issues, inflation.
Yeah, you know, somebody who called, I don't remember the name, mentioned something like getting the National Assembly involved. You know, something has to be done to make this, there must be a kind of law around this, done in a way that Labour will be satisfied, the government on its own part will also be satisfied. Because after all is said and done, when Labour and government, the ordinary people who are not even earning any salary will be bearing the brunt of this problem. We do not know, if they are not able to solve this tomorrow, we don't know what next. And that is really dicey. For the security of the nation, for whatever we are planning in. So there must be a decision tomorrow, and I hope those people who are going to be around the negotiation table will be able to do something good for the nation.
We just can't afford a strike on our hands now. Forget the fact that we are looking forward to an election. The issue of insecurity is another issue. When you have strike like the one they are calling, an indefinite strike,
A total shutdown.
a total shutdown. Before you know it, people will start gathering. After 3, 4, 5 days of sitting at home, people will start gathering in pockets and droves. And anything can happen from such situation. So we must avoid it. But labor and government must also understand, especially those that will be sitting at the table tomorrow.
Hopefully.
If they
Reason must
eventually
prevail.
sit, the
Yeah.
first thing now is to beg labor. Please meet them. If for this last time, hear government out again. We understand how long suffering you have been, and we agree to that statement that said government seems to be taking labor for a ride. It is almost true. But in the interest of our nationhood, can labor please just meet government this once with all minds open? Can government come to the table, federal government come to the table along with the state governments?
Yes.
This time to show labor that, oh, we are not taking you for a ride, we are serious with this negotiation. Let the governments and the state governors come. If they have to be represented, so be it. If all of them will have to be in that meeting, very beautiful. Come to the table and put down your cards. Allow labor to see what is going on in your mind. And talking about maybe tankering with the Constitution to allow flexibility. It would have been a very, in states over there in America, everybody decides what they pay. But in a country like ours, where governors always play God with everything in their care, I am afraid that we will have to think very well, think deeply before giving them that opportunity to determine the fates of their own workers as they so wish. If you give some of them that opportunity, they will prefer to fuel the generator in government house more often than to pay workers good salaries.
All right, fine.
But while we'll plead with labor, we also have to ask the government to be sincere. You know, labor, they know what's going on. Government is having issues with ASU, unresolved. They're having issues with the polytechnics people. And then labor, you know, that seems to be a kind of, you know, incomplete reaction to all these side issues. So labor will be wary that they've not been able to reach a common ground with ASU, with other people. How are we sure? So sometimes when they are skeptical, they are backed by what we call precedents. So the government must show sincerity.
All right.
That's just what I want to say about that.
All right, now, when we return, Governor Matsari raises the alarm over invasion of armed bandits. Kidnappers says nobody is safe in Katsina anymore. Stay with us. The security situation in most states in Nigeria appears to be overwhelming the state governors. First, it was Governor Kashim Shettima who admitted that the security situation in his state of Borno is worsening. Another state governor, Aminu Masari of Katsina, is also raising an alarm over festering insecurity in the northwest state. Speaking at a security meeting in Katsina, Governor Matsari also admitted that gunmen and armed bandits are overrunning the state, such that most parts are no longer safe for anyone. And it is said that the state shares boundaries with Zamfara state, and we know how the situation has been with Zamfara, because there are reports that show that 8 frontline councils with Zamfara were facing security challenges, though there hasn't been any serious security issues there. But then, having Katsina facing this challenge, could it be an overflow of what is happening in Zamfara?
Yeah, of course. We cannot rule that out. And you see, sometime back on this program, we want that when we allow security challenges in some states to fester without attending to them promptly, we are endangering other states, and we are preparing grounds for more chaos in other parts of the country. Hearing Governor Masari lament about Katsina, it really pierced my heart. Katsina is a place, a state I lived in for 7 years. And I can conveniently say that it's one of the most peaceful I was in Katsina for 7 years when in neighboring Katsina and Kano, religious crisis, ethnic crisis were the order of the day. Let me tell you, most part of my stay in Katsina, I was working in Kano. I was lecturing somewhere in Kano for some part of my stay. Before I relocated, started working in Katsina State Polytechnic. But even while working and schooling, yes, I was also doing my master's in Bayer University. Even while doing all that, I was still living in Katsina because it's quite safer. If I had to stay 2 days in Kano, I would stay on campus. But I prefer to shuttle between Katsina. It's not as if it's a short distance, over an hour, almost 2 hours. But I'll go every day and come back. Because once you enter parts of Katsina, back then, you feel that safety. And then go to the capital city. The issue of tribes, religion, played no part in our relationship. But for such a state to, degenerate to the extent that the state governor, the chief security officer, would say we are no longer able to assure the safety of the people. It's a sad thing. And it should be a serious warning to those in charge to know that gradually we are losing the states one by one. Gradually, recently the governor in Zamfara said it would be a bad idea to bring a state of emergency. A governor. That's how helpless he has become. And then if you look at the size, the sheer size of Katsina and how it spreads and the number of states it is sharing boundary with, we have to be careful. And also sharing boundary with Niger Republic. The GBI axis. Kaduna, it's sharing boundary with Kaduna and Funtua. Up north, it's sharing boundary with Kano. It is sharing boundary with Zamfara. And I think even a part of Jigawa, so to speak, obviously it is sharing boundary with Niger Republic. So if you now allow such a state with openings to go up in flame under the advent of banditry, armed robbers, kidnappers, it is dangerous. So the federal government must not allow Masari to remain helpless. They should move in swiftly, assist this governor to keep Katsina safe. It will not be in anybody's interest to allow Katsina go up in flame.
You know what? These bandits seems to be determined to prove a point. Don't forget, this is the president's state.
The president's state.
And the implication of that is legion. It shows if the president of Nigeria cannot secure his own state, they've called his integrity to question.
There is a state governor there. It is not just about the
president. Sometimes this state government, we just said something about World Zamfara. Well, this state government, are they really in control of our security apparatus? You can call them the chief security officers of the state. They don't control the army. They don't control even the police in their state. They don't control. So what are we saying? Let's be realistic about that.
So what is the essence of the
let me say, there is a pattern. You just mentioned GBA. I was also in Katsina. I know how peaceful, Funtua, Dusema, all these places, they were places people loved to go, good commercial centers. Now turning those places to another thing entirely is something really to be sad about.
Right. Somebody told me that in Katsina City, once it's 8 p.m. now, you better be inside. That's the kidnapping in that place is even different. I have friends still living there. They will tell you that they'll pick up a child and demand ransom. Ransom as low as 100,000. As low as 50,000. So it's just, it's rampant.
I was going to go, these are border states, frontline states. We've said it sometimes here before. The borders are too porous. We may think this thing is beyond, it's beyond political. It's becoming more of pecuniary or commercial things. And, don't forget that all those neighboring states, because of the economic crisis, famine, and all those things, there are people who believe that Nigeria is a rich country where they can get things. And they find it easy to get into the country.
The bandits
come in, take money, do everything,
And go away.
get ransom and go back. So we still need to work holistically around our borders. What we need to do to be able to secure the borders. You know, we've been laughing at this man, Donald Trump, about his
Building
obsession
the
with the wall.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you have to know a very drastic problem requires a
Drastic
drastic
measure,
solution.
yeah.
It is, look at Borno, all those border states. That's where you
Well,
have
we're
most
having
of the
issues. Look at
crisis.
Zamfara.
And then I don't know whether the government does not really see that it boils down to the issue of the border security in Nigeria. So whether they like it or not, because we keep having crises here in Katsina, in Zamfara, in Borno, and we are talking of elections. Where are you going to have elections if people cannot move out? Unless the government does not want to hold the election, because you don't know what's at the back of people's mind. They have to prove that they are really serious about holding the election. And if they are serious about it,
you can't call people.
Then you can carry, yes, of
You
course.
can't tell people to come out and start voting.
Of course,
when they are afraid
go
of
out to be
being kidnapped.
INEC has said that the security report from certain states in the northeast will determine
whether
they would have elections there.
in those states.
In those states.
So,
And
are we now ready to
credible
add
would
more
that
states to the list?
I'm certain that the federal government is going to ensure that it doesn't happen. But the question here is, the IGP has approved the deployment of additional police units and manpower to beef up security in the state. Now, the question, is this enough? Because he's saying that they should take the fight to the bush, meaning the border, the border
states,
areas, border states or border areas. But then let's quickly take the score. Dan from Adamawa, welcome to the program.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I want to contribute to your program on our security situation in our country. I think all these security issues we have been saying always is the poverty. Now the governors are using our resources in the way and manner it's not supposed to be used. That is why today you find out the poverty is too much. Why you are saying that the kidnappers are kidnapping people are asking a ransom of 50,000, 100,000. Now we are in a situation where you cannot pay a salary in the local government. There is no money is going around. People that are dealing with akara, unu, that will not sell, nobody to buy something from the general public. Then how do you expect security? All those people are blaming the military, the police about security. The security situation that we have in this country is created by the governors. There's no way that the money is floating from the federal government, is not coming down to the grassroots. I mean, expecting security. How can we get security in this country with this kind of situation we are going? And even people that, as we are talking now, the government has a chief security. The chief security, why we are saying government chief security, does not mean that it can control the security apparatus of the government. The chief security is for you to identify the problem with people and let the security agencies know what is happening.
All right. Thank you for your contribution. You know, earlier I asked what is the essence of the security votes that these governors collect. If you are still facing certain challenges and you also cannot control the security apparatus in your state, what then is the essence?
I think a lot of meaning has been given to what they call
votes.
security votes.
When
that was security, I don't know whether it's really applicable to the votes any longer, because
is it being used in that direction?
The personal rights of the governors.
Contrary to what the Constitution probably stipulates, the governors here are given security votes, yet they don't have control over the security apparatus in their states. So how do you account for such votes? That's when they will now be able to tell you that, oh, there was a security breach and we had to make some unorthodox arrangement, or outside the police, we did some things and that's where the money went to. Or we gave, you hear them every day saying they bought vehicles for the police, they bought ammunition for the police. The same police they cannot call in a jiffy. The commissioner will have to clear such from the IG. So while everybody wants, the last caller may want us to believe the governors created majority of these security issues. Well, that's debatable. But what we have on our hand now is that the security problems are on ground. the governors cannot solve them. They need help. And that's why they are reaching out to those who can help them.
Yeah. And I asked
The
earlier.
IG promised, yes.
Yes,
The IG promised, but now we are approaching elections. The pleas are being masked towards that election. I hope the attention to the election security will not be affected by the attention to the borders and the security of the state. So I hope the IG has enough on its hands to be able to handle both, extremes. The issue of security in the state and also the issue of the security of the election.
Nationwide now.
So, it's dicey.
Of course, but this issue has to be dealt with.
No, it
first.
has to.
The elections are still days ahead.
I think the federal government, when we want to comment on government policies or government actions, we must do so with open minds. I always say that. Recently, the federal government announced, yes, that Operation Python Dance will now be everywhere as we approach election. There are people who complain, we don't need soldiers. Even the state governor on January 1st in Southwest here, in my own native state, openly chastised the federal government for planning to bring soldiers out as election approach. Now, I think the government is very right. If we have soldiers on Operation Python Dance in each state, ensuring security, ably supported by the police and other security agencies, I think we'll be moving closer to the kind of security we need to hold the election. But if we keep saying, the federal government is going to rig with soldiers and therefore keep soldiers in the barracks, and we have insecurity staring us in the face all over the country, then we'll be deceiving ourselves that we're actually ready to hold elections. So a good move in the right direction is the idea of having military operations to help secure the states.
We need to move forward quickly. In war, you win some battles and lose some, but the ultimate test of bravery is never to give up till victory is achieved. The Nigerian military recorded mixed fortune in the war against Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast recently. First, the Nigerian Air Force says the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole destroyed a building used as meeting venue by fighters of Islamic State of West Africa province, ISWAP, near Baga in Borno State. Now, the Air Force Director of Public Relations and Information, Air Commodore Ibikunle Daramola, who gave the cheering news in a statement in Abuja, said the operation was conducted after a series of intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance missions confirmed that the terrorists used the building as assembly point. Also confirmed by Daramola is the loss of an Air Force helicopter which crashed during a combat on Wednesday while providing close air support to troops of 145 Battalion in Damasak in Borno State. How much of a loss, a setback is this to the fight against insurgency?
The fact that there is a battle on the hands of the security forces cannot be overemphasized. But one must commend our armed forces, I keep saying, when people were saying, okay, Boko Haram has been, decimated and all those things, terrorists don't go easily because the kind of war you're fighting is not conventional. It's not the kind of, when your army, but these people, they are more like guerrillas. And the time you feel they have been brought down, they always want to come up to assert themselves, to prove that they're still there. So some of these skirmishes here and there may just be a way of showing that we're still here. Don't think you have, brought us down completely. So having said that, I think we have to commend our security forces for the spirit to fight back, spirit to push these people back in the face of all the challenges that we've been seeing every time. The only thing is, I like it when, the Commodore Ibikunle Daramola said something about looking at, the combination of intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, all these things. We said it earlier. There has to be something more than the physical force. You have to bring a lot of intelligence into this battle because you are fighting guerrillas. And I think they have to put more of that to be able to prevent, sometimes all these attacks, going to the military barracks and all those things, if there is enough adequate intelligence, they will have been prevented, to forestall before they happen. So we have to look beyond the use of physical force, the ammunition and all those things. There has to be some other strategies to be put into this to be able to solve this. But having said all, I think our people are really, our military forces are really doing a good job out there.
Well, despite the commendation, how much of a setback is this for the military, Dari?
Well, you see, when there is a war is the totality of many battles usually. You lose some battles. That doesn't mean you're going to lose the war. It's not a sign that you will not win the war. And if you win some battles, it's not an indication that there are other battles you won't lose. So, losing the fighter jet could be a very big setback, especially at the time when we're talking about not having enough in the first place to confront these insurgents. But I believe that so much has been said about the need to properly equip the army, that this should not take time to deal with.
When you say take time to deal with, how do you mean?
We need to equip them. Now they've just lost one of the fighter jets that they don't even have enough. So the government should know that more than ever before, they need more. That's what I mean, that this shouldn't take time for the government to deal with. Please, they are losing one of the things they don't have enough of in the first place. Make haste to, re-equip them. Make haste to give them more of such things to be able to fight this war.
But we know the process of acquiring equipment.
We understand the process. We cannot probably change the process. But I know that when there are wars of this nature, some concessions are given. I have said it before. I want to say it again. Nigeria has not taken advantage of some international conventions, some treaties here and there, to fight this war properly. The challenges we've been having about our ratings, especially by organizations like Transparency International and Co., probably is affecting the help we are getting. If we reach out longer, there are some of these things that could be waived for us. There are some help. The world powers, international organizations, and others have declared Boko Haram as a terrorist organization. Fine. Now they have ISWAP, a known arm of an international terrorist organization. We need to do some PR, if need be some propaganda, to capitalize on this and get some help. That as it is. Also, we must also know that when things like this happen, it could really, apart from equipment loss and other things, it could really demoralize the fighters themselves. And that is why when you have mixed fortunes like this, the fighter jet was lost, but a key structure or building housing the leadership or intelligence unit of these terrorists was, brought down. That should be something, I was going to say something that will lift the morale of the fighters and let's see.
All right, quickly, if you could just hold this. We have Yakub on the line calling from Lagos, so welcome to the program.
Good evening,
Go ahead.
Veronica.
Good evening.
Okay. And then good evening to the two wise men in the studio.
Good evening.
For me, kudos to our military because of ordinary citizens of this country, they were not sleeping. They were at the war front, keeping fighting and fighting and fighting. But having said that, I think Nigerian government needs to call for help to let United States of America and France and other allies to know that the ISIS of this world, they are fighting all over the world. They are here in Africa. Because if you are helping Afghanistan, you are helping all sorts of Iran and others to fight ISIS. Well, I don't just understand why they neglect Africa. Because the ISIS of this world, I can tell you, sir, with due respect, I may be wrong, but I feel that they are here in Africa. Because these people are not easily to be defeated. Because you cannot fight a war whereby the person that you want to kill, if he even had it in mind that you wanted to die, so if you even kill him, you help him
So the America of this world and the France, as I said earlier, they need to come to our aid and help us. We cannot just do away with that because we really, really need their help. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Yakub, for your contribution. Yes, you wanted to say
agree.
something.
You know what? Another issue. For the sake of the future, we have what they call the Army Corps of Engineers. I think it's about time we look inwards and see what we can also get from our people, from the kind of knowledge that can be built to the extent of being able to produce some things at least for ourselves. Let me tell you, I'm saying this, it's not as if it's impossible. Those who are doing it, look at India, you know. I mean, what is happening is that even if you go back to our history, we were talking of what happened during the Civil War.
Nigerian Civil War.
The Ogunike, these were things that were done by our people. So we have to look inwards. You're talking of getting ammunition. Before Trump can sign out, an arms deal with a nation, it has to go through a lot of process. It's not just done anyhow. Congress has to. So, and we're looking at 2022 before we can receive, the help. So we wait till 2022.
And this will continue.
So it shows that, and also, maybe we are concentrating our interest in a particular section of the world. We're talking of America all the time. Let us spread our wings and see what is of more, what is better for our national interest. If some areas are not working for us, let us look at other areas, because after all is said and done, Nigeria is Nigeria. Nigeria is not America. America will deal with its own national interest first, and that's what is happening. Look, Trump is thinking of withdrawing his troops from Syria, and you're asking him to bring another to come and help you in Nigeria. You know, I don't know what people are thinking about. Trump has his own mandate. He wants to withdraw American troops as much as possible. So he has his own. Like yes, he has his hands full.
Americans shouldn't fight other people.
So let us look inwards. Yes,
Americans won't fight other people's war. And if that's his approach, it means that the help we'll get from him is limited.
It's limited.
Like we said, there are other avenues. I've said this before. We can get this. The insurgents all over the world even are not, they are illegal bodies, they are terrorist organizations, yet they find ways of getting weapons to fight. I mean, maybe we should begin to think of how to end this war as soon as possible. If we keep waiting for certain dates, then we may not really do much to help our soldiers. And then we should, you see, because of things like this, we should do more as citizens of this country, as government in this country, to encourage the fighters. We need to encourage our fighters. They are doing serious jobs out there. And the moment we don't... I was reading, it was on Facebook, I was reading some things from Babajide Kolade Auditorium. And I was glad to see how it was well received by army chiefs, security chiefs, when he met with them. At a time, some people would say, what we do here is demoralizing to the fighters. They were able to, I mean, that shows that what we do here, analyzing the fight, the ongoing war, is actually a way of encouraging the fighters. And people like Babajide Kolade should be encouraged to see things as they are and say it as they are. When the soldiers know that people are speaking on their behalf, I think they are encouraged to fight more for their country. They are encouraged to be more patriotic in ending this insurgency as soon as possible. So we appreciate this news, the good part of the news about, ending the activities of ISWAP officers in Niabaga. We also commiserate with the fighters and the Nigerian security forces on the loss of that aircraft, while begging the federal government to make swift moves to equip the army. This war has to end.
All right, your final take, Sean.
Yeah, I think, having said that, there is need to re-strategize. You know, when you get to a crossroads, you have to look at the best route out of that situation. And one of that is to make sure that we look inwards, like I said earlier. Let us see how we can use our own means, our own resources to be able to get out of the tendency to have to always look outside when we want to solve situations like this.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program. Thank you for your contributions. We do appreciate them. Well, that's all on Journalist Hangout. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Veronica Danny Boy. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.